So you made it to this video in the Boss SY1000 series, which means you're very much interested in knowing way more than the typical here are a couple of sounds video, which I've done, or these are the features, which I've done, or here it's in a produced track, which I've done. You might want to know way more about the actual sound engine, what kind of sound engines there are, what synth engines, does it do sampling or not, which it doesn't. The virtual guitar sounds, what does it mean? What can it do to my actual pickup sound from the guitar? And how do I manipulate it using the unit itself? What can the control switches do and all that stuff? And why does it wobble? I don't know, there's some underneath. Oh, the manual. So, everything I show you here and more is in the manual. So if you watch this video, you kind of don't need the manual anymore, because this video goes way more in depth than the manual does. Hopefully this answers your questions, and after this video you know whether you want to buy it or not. Enjoy this hour with me in the SY1000. Boss commissioned this video just to let you know, so they're paying for it, which doesn't influence my opinion. I'm actually pretty impressed by this damn thing, but that's up to you to decide. So I will try to go through all the little bits and pieces of the user interface on the actual SY1000, because even though there is a PC Mac editor, which I haven't looked at, that requires a USB connection, and on stage, in the practice room, you might want to adjust delay time or who knows what, and so we need to know how good the actual user interface on the unit is. And having played with it for 2 days now, I find my way around, and it's actually not super complicated. It could be better, but we get into that at the end of the video. This is a long-ass video, so, you know, get some coffee, and here we go. So on the main screen, which of course you can see right here, sorry, it's very bright because this is dark, so my hand is overexposed. Yeah, you don't see this, I pay attention to that shit. There are a couple different ways to see this main screen. Big-ass bank and patch number, which of course changes. You can't see the 1, 2, 3, 4 at the bottom here when you do that. And obviously there are things you can do with these endless encoders, which means just, you know, changing the patch directly, changing the BPM directly, which changes the master BPM, changing the key if there's any harmonies, the tuner, which is, let's go through this, actually very good because it does individual picking up of the strings with this picky uppy thing here. So you can actually just quickly see if everything is fine. Takes a little bit of getting used to get the thing of, you know, what's happening in the middle. We're so used to green and red and all that stuff, which again, it's a little bit of a problem. For me, I think visually it would be better if the screen was colored, which nowadays it should be. So hit exit and you're back. You determine what the sub out does. Oh no, how loud it is. And that's the patch level. There you go. So going to the second screen, this number gets smaller, the name gets bigger, might be the way you want to look at it. On the third screen, you can actually see what the 8 switches do. Bank, and the 4 different patches, but that can be changed, as we will find out later. And most importantly, what control 1 and control 2 do. Yes, they have different colors, but you might not know what the colors mean. And we can see here, this will turn instrument 3 on and off. You can trigger the master delay. There's literally a million things. Wait a second. You can do, no wait, master delay, BPM tap. So yeah, this is tappable. This turns the master delay on and off. So you can actually assign whatever you want to these, and there's control inputs in the back for even more switches. Everything can be controlled in any way that you would ever want. It's pretty crazy. On the last screen, you see the effects. So you see how, no Siri, go away. I said effects, not Siri. Apple, get this shit happening. So here you can see the effects chain. Same thing that you can see when you hit effects, only that here you still have the main control at the bottom and you can't edit anything. So those are the 4 pages you can look at depending on what you like. Okay, getting into it. If I hit, these can be pushed and they can be turned, endlessly, which is great. Over here, you don't do too much except for the page left and right, which kind of feels, I think, because you're always here and you need these quite a bit, it would have been nice if these were, I don't know, here, there, I don't know. It kind of feels like over here, I'm maybe there would have been better, I don't know. But you need left and right and the encoders. Everything else here, you don't need too much. So if you go to instrument, we see that each sound is comprised of 3 different sound engines plus the normal input, which right now I'm using my actual output on the guitar for. I think you could go through the GK pickup and go to mix. I think that also works, but I'm just using my output and I'm going into the normal guitar input on the unit. Now that allows you to use the built-in, let's call them amp models, but also the dynamic synth, which is the only sound engine that can take GK input as well as the normal guitar input. You're not going to get all the crazy sounds because it is a one signal that it's getting from the pickup versus 6 individual signals. So there won't be super mega polyphonic sounds, but it does work and allows you to do some cool stuff that the other sounds can't give you. So 3 sound engines plus the normal input at the same time. So you could always play like a guitar modeler sound. You would hear what this guitar sounds like with its pickups plus the 3 sound engines. So right now we got dyna is on, and the normal input is off. Okay, so you can see how that goes. You can easily navigate to any of these and turn them on and off, and also assign that to switches. Almost everything is assignable to switches. I'm not going to mention that too much again. Very important, and that's something where on the GT1000 I got hung up. This is your most important encoder. I kind of feel that this should be bigger. I kind of feel that this encoder should have a special kind of color or a special kind of size, because this is what you use to navigate. So now you can see how I'm navigating. And there isn't a up, down, left, right thing. So if I want to get from here to here, I will literally have to go through the chain. And you're going to have to learn the order at some point of what goes where. I'm sorry, I'm looking over there, because that's where the big screen is that I can see on what I'm filming. So if I go to instrument 2, the dyna, I can turn that on and off. And that way you can, if you wanted to, monitor the one you're editing right now, whatever. If I want to add an actual guitar input from my 1/4" cable, I will navigate to normal input, turn that on. I can go now pick my amp and my effects. And all these effect blocks can be moved around. Let's go to instrument. And we're going to look at what the different sound engines are. Okay? Let me check. Normal input is on. What sound do we have now? Apparently the normal input, that's my stupidity, that's not the unit. The latency is different when using the normal input. It feels more immediate than using the GK. But now I'm not hearing the virtual guitar, I'm hearing my actual guitar. Which, of course, you can go and edit. And so on. And down here, this signifies, these little dots, that there's more pages. So I can go over and pick my gain, my speaker type. I can pick a 412. Microphone, all that good stuff that you can do with any, let's call it modeler. While we're here, let's check out a couple of the amps. I don't know what I'm doing. There's quite a few. They're decent. They're decent modeled sounds. They're not an Axe effects, but I think they're pretty decent, and you can actually really use this just as a modeler if you wanted to. It's not going to be worse than anything that you can get under in the sub €1,000 price range. Now you can see there's an amp right there. What if I want to get something in front of the amp? That I would have never figured out without the manual. You will hold the select in while you're on it, and then move it around. So I move it over here. Now I can navigate here, push on it, and EQ in front of the amp. Or I can take this chorus block, move it in front of the amp, turn it on, and turn it into a dual chorus if I wanted that. Or what if I want a different effect there? Right now this is just a chorus. And apparently I can't change that into anything else. Well, why am I turning this? I'm just going to take this FX3, which can be anything because it's just FX. I'm going to move that down here behind my chorus. I'm going to turn the chorus off. And now you can see I can do a lot of things. So I could, let me see if I have a distortion pedal, maybe lo-fi octave, yeah, octave, that'll be cool. Now what am I? There are a lot of effects in here. Can you see that? And was apparently no overdrives. Well, that's a way in which it differs from a modeler, apparently. Maybe I'm making a mistake. But I'm going to turn that off. We're going to go to instrument 1 and turn that on by itself. That is now the GK pickup. Now the other two are the same instrument, but probably with different presets, different octave settings. You get a little bit of an idea what's going on the effects control, but we get back to effects later. Now we go to instruments. You can see that instrument 2 and 3 are off, which I can turn on and off. Which you can turn on and off right here. The upper row is when you push, the lower row is when you turn. I know this, but I'm not doing it. So you can turn these on and off from here. So I can go ahead and change my sound engine. And this is not like the typical Roland does everything thing. It is a Boss guitar synth. So it is synthesizer sounds and guitar sounds. You won't find a piano in here. Okay, you won't find samples in here, which I like. It focuses on something completely different. It's not an all-in-one, let me play piano on the guitar thing. You can click here to load a preset into that engine. For the dynamic synth, I now can go and pick one thing that's already pre-programmed. Or I can hit edit right here. Now we get into the blocks. Each of the sound engines has different blocks. A lot of them are kind of the same. This is one of the more complicated ones, but we look at it. Each of them has a common section. The common section is where you determine how loud each string is and whether it's left or right, or whether or not it's even in there. So at the bottom, you can see the parameters for each block, but we can also hit edit to then go into the block itself. So if you wanted to, you never have to go into the block. You navigate with left and right. Okay, or you click, and then we can see instrument is on and off. And then with page, I go to the second level, and now I can say my string levels. Let's say string 3 is way down. So I turned off my G string. And on the next page, you can say where the string is. Remember, that is for one of the instruments, and there is 3 of them at the same time, plus the normal guitar input. So you could do crazy shit. So one string would have one sound coming from the left, while the other sound is on the right, from another instrument on the same string. That alone is fun, doing panning based on where you are on the string. So if you're doing pedal tone lines like this, you have to pay attention to what string you're on. Kinda cool. So that you do in common. Wait, we're gonna do this. Exit, exit, exit. Go over, go over. Okay, instrument. Let's see how quickly I can go back there. There we go. Edit. I'm getting better at this. That is in common. Oscillator, edit, is pretty much what kind of oscillator. Pulse width with more parameters for that. And then on this one, you can have input. And that is being sent through the whole engine. So, which is cool if you wanted that filtered and so on. And then on page 2, you have the envelope, the blah, blah, blah. So, here's the filter section, which again, you can see at the bottom. But you can also go into low pass filter. Jennifer Lopez filter. So if you're looking for ADSRs or ADs or any kind of envelope, you don't have those. You don't have an attack, decay, sustain, release to send to the filter. We're working with envelopes because we're playing a dynamic instrument. So right now, I'm just making the dynamic of the guitar control the filter. Now it actually goes up. Way cool. Okay. Here's the amp, or we can also change the volume with our attack. And so on. All doable. Remember, we're just on the first model, kind of. Alternate tuning is off right now, which we could turn on. It's completely stupid with the sound like this. But there are lots of alternate tunings if you wanted that. Moving on quickly. LFO is going to this whole block, so there's two different LFOs. It looks as if LFO is going to oscillator, LFO2 is going to filter, 1 to oscillator, 2 to filter, but that is not the case. They are assignable. And there's also sequencer. So all these go to the whole block, not to the individual sections. That's kind of what I thought. I don't think this is a very clever representation of what's going on, unless you find out or I tell you. So LFO1 can be on, blah, blah, blah. We have classic shapes, sample and hold, random. That's there. There's the rate. I'm a little bit confused on how to sync it, even though there's beats per minute. But where do I, because it is synced right now, but I can say the beats per minute for the LFO, but how do I say what the subdivisions are? Because if it's synced, wouldn't I want subdivisions? So I'm a little bit confused about that. And you say rate, obviously, pitch depth. Right now, it's saying how much it's going to pitch. Let's do that. You can say how much it's going to the filter. You can say how much it's going to the volume, making it tremolo. Pulse width modulation if we had a pulse width wave, which we don't have. Fade and blah, blah. So that's for the LFO. LFO2, same settings. And then let's quickly, oh God, there's so much. Go into the sequencer, which is very cool. You can determine how long it is, if it's synced, what the rate is. So pretty much you can say here, subdivisions on the sequencer. Okay? There's a sequencer and where it goes. Does it go to pitch? Does it go to cutoff? Or does it go to level? So let's say this is on, haven't actually tried this. Let's send it to cutoff, sequence 1 or sequence 2. We're going to go to sequence 1. Of course, there's other stuff going to it as well. Wait a second. I'm going to go exit. Going to go to LFO1, which I assigned, if you remember correctly, to the filter depth. Okay. You can see with a little bit of practice, you get your way around here. Now, I want to actually edit that. And you see there's different pages. Go to page 2. Great, I can say I want 7 steps if I wanted that. So I got to navigate to cutoff because sequencer 1 and sequencer 2 can each go to pitch, and it is a lot of, and level as well. So we're on cutoff, and now I'm saying 7 steps. The curve probably is how it gets from one to the other, but we want harsh jumps, I think. So I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to take that down. And take that up a bit, and take that down more, and down way more. It's on quarter notes right now. So we want that. Oh, it's on half notes. No, we don't want that. We want it fast. Here. With some work, you'll get it. Obviously, this is hopefully much easier in the computer editor. But that's how you get movement into your sounds. Okay. Whoa. And then there's layers. You can even say that this engine, instrument 1, is only effective in certain key ranges as you would define on a keyboard. So you're saying the lowest note and the highest note, only those will play that instrument. So you could say that the 2 lowest strings are doing bass, but even define that actually not the 2 lowest strings that you would do in common, but I want the lowest notes to be bass and so on. That's all possible. So moving on, and we're going to quickly do this oscillator synth. You have, again, the oscillator, which is slightly different here. You have the filter, which has a little bit more options. The amp and LFO 1 and 2, no sequencer this time. The GR300 was one of the classic guitar synths, and those are the very classic sounds from it. And if you hit variation, you can even go and just load a couple of presets. Remember, this is 1 out of 3 different sounds. Filter bass. Okay. Also remember, which I think I have to point out, you don't have to, when we're looking at the normal input for the actual normal guitar, you could actually run your normal guitar cable into your normal amp and run this in parallel. You don't need to, you don't have to use the modeler that's built in. Just use your normal tube amp, and why not? And add that. Okay, we're moving on. Now it gets interesting because we're getting into modeled, like actually synthesized guitar. We're using the GK pickup and not what the guitar sounds like, but what the SY1000 thinks a guitar should sound like. So right now, I'm hitting edit. We have the common parameters again, where we can now, of course, take a strat sound and say one string goes to the left and the other goes to the right. Remember, all those things are still possible for guitar sounds. But if we look at guitar, classic strat. But I actually want to be on the front pickup, on the neck pickup. That is really not too shabby for like an artificial sound. However, there is a little bit of a disconnect between my playing and what I'm hearing. Call it latency, call it whatever. It doesn't really feel like I'm playing an electric guitar into an amp, but the result to the recording or the audience is pretty convincing. Ew. Now, Matt, this is just one of the 3 engines. You can combine that with the modeler, or you can combine that with other sounds. So all pickup positions are there, but then there's also a modern strat. There's a telly. Yeah, well, if you want someone that knows how to play, get someone else. And a Les Paul. Remember, this is not using any of the actual pickups from my guitar. It is all going through the GK pickup, as you can see here. P90s. A 335, jazzy box. I'm very impressed by the jazzy sounds and the Rickenbacker. And lipstick pickups. Wide range single coil. Again, this is all with the same amp. You can change the amp. None of what is what and what do the different things do, none of that, the different engines do, none of that is actually explained in the manual. It is explained how to use the editor, but not really what things do. I do like these sounds, I gotta be honest. Now, fretless. That is convincingly cool. Very cool. So, then there's amp. Again, the typical amps we had. Well, I don't want that with a Strat, so you go to Les Paul, rear. Whoa! All the amps are there again. That is pretty impressive. Noise gate and an overall EQ. This is one of 3 different engines you can have. If I now go and have my guitar here, I was fighting with the volume. You can mix it in. Moving on. Acoustic. They're all very, very bright, but generally speaking, again, all the commons, you could have, 2 strings acoustic while you have 2 strings electric, while you have 2 synth strings. Who knows? So that's a D28. You can control body and tone. They're all too bright, so roll down the tone a bit. Some of it sounds better. Some of them sound better than some piezo on acoustic guitars. I'm pretty impressed by it for a live situation where you don't want to carry an acoustic. You don't record with it unless you really don't have anything else, or maybe a demo. again, you can layer that as much as you want. And then the amp again, you could send an acoustic through a guitar amp. I don't know why you would want that, but you can. Moving on. Bass, I find those really cool. So right now we're on a jazz bass. P-bass. Remember, it's going through the effects right now, which isn't a great idea. So with some tweaking, you can really get great results. Vio guitar, I'm kind of confused about what that is. The manual didn't give me much on it. I can pick the guitar again, yes. And then there's a harmony thing. I don't know, I don't quite understand this fully. Violin? I don't quite... Oh, let's go into variations. Kind of confused about what Vio guitar is. Poly effects. A little bit confused about that because all I can find is poly effects, and now you can actually use... There's a distortion. But there's no amp, so... I don't care what it is, but it's awesome. It's more like... So that's it. Slow pad. It looks like you can't do much there, but what you have is cool. And layered in with the other sounds, that of course is great. And that's it. Those are all the different levels we have. The different, not levels, the different sound engines. And obviously, let's go, we're gonna go to... Let's go. All dynamic. Just let's look at a couple of things of what they're using. A dynamic and an oscillator synth. There's clearly a guitar in there. Yeah, we have a Rickenbacker, a dynamic synth, and another dynamic synth. But with a lot of delay on it. And there's a sequencer on it. So I could now go to effects and say that the first one should just be quieter instrument level. There you go. And you can get to the instrument edit from this window by hitting instrument edit. And then we're here. We can do the same thing. So let's go into this one. Let's say I want to add my normal guitar from the 1/4" input. hit this. You can even simulate the cable. Look at that shit. Let's not do that. But I want to get some cranky shit. So now it's just a matter of mixing. That's me playing shit. So that's how easy that is if you know your way around this thing. I kind of wish there was a way to hit what I want to edit. It's not a touchscreen. You can see I have to use one rotary encoder to go left and right. There is no up down. Can get tedious if you have to edit a whole set. Again. Oh, there is an overdrive. Look at that X distortion. There are overdrives. Okay, so that must be a special box. If I want to move that, hit number 6, move it around, and now I can move it around anywhere I want, up to even behind the reverb if I wanted that. Look at this. There's even a parallel thing. I can say only on the left, only on the right. I think that's what that is. You can move that anywhere. So you can be super creative. And obviously right here, this block will only affect instrument 1. These 3 will only affect instrument 2. Whatever is behind it, like let's say this chorus, will now affect both instruments. Instrument 3 is always separate, but then you can have something that affects only instrument 3. But now whatever's behind here will affect all 3 instruments at the same time. There's a foot control, level control. And this in Audi thing is interesting because that is an actual send and return on the back of the unit. So if you wanted to use your Chase Bliss crazy delay, you can actually insert that there and determine in each patch where it sits in the chain and if it's on or not. So you could use a Tube Screamer, you could use an SD1, you could use, for Lord's sake, you could use a freaking metal zone, if you so choose. You can put a metal zone anywhere in the chain, you can put a metal zone in your normal input, and then again, use it or not use it, put it in a different position in each patch. That is very, very cool. When it comes to effects, let's go through this quickly. Acoustic resonance, auto wah, chorus, vibe, compressor, defretter, delay, flanger. And then on delay, there are subcategories. Stereo 1. So this is blinking, which is telling me I can actually tap delay time, which isn't on each patch, but you can define that. You can see I'm not... More feedback. And I have several pages there of settings for the dual. There are quite a few delay types, as you can see. Now be careful, you need the FX delay, because there's also a master delay, and there's also a delay 1. So look at this. If I go to delay 1, that is a pretty simple delay. more like a digital delay where you don't really have a lot of functions. It's more simplistic. I can show you, that was actually probably both of them turned on. So if I turn that off and I turn the master delay off, we should only hear this delay 1. It's literally just a digital delay. If I turn that off, we turn the master delay on, which technically should be somewhere back here for everything. But again, whoever programmed that determined the master delay should be there. The master delay, again, can be different kind of delays. That's a second delay block you can use. We turn that off, and you can see there's another delay block down here. But it only says delay 2, so that again is a simple delay. But if I need that, I'm going to move that all the way up here. And I have delay, so you can see what you can do. But the things that say FX are the ones that can be many different things. Right now, this is a chorus. The comp probably can be different comps, but that's about it. So if you want complete freedom with what your block does, use the one that says comp, FX. So I can say right now, harmony, I want a major third. I want a third, and I'm in C. Let's go to D. Intelligent pitch shifting. Loads and loads and loads of things you can do. Obviously, I got nothing plugged in here. But you can determine send level, return level, all that stuff. There's a general reverb, or an admiral or captain reverb. Back here, whether they're stereo linked, output select, I can determine where it's going, and it's probably changing its frequency response based on that, which of course is in system. You say in out settings, and then you say what the normal in is, how you have that set up. But of course, what you have selected on the main out, which is right now a line, but you can say you're going to a combo, you're going to a stack, you're going to a JC, whatever. And on the sub out, it has 4 different outs. So you can say that's going to the front of house, that's going to my amp, and therefore that is differently EQ'd. I don't know what total means. Threshold, whatever. Total noise gate threshold and total reverb level as a global setting, which is clever. This is very important. You can determine what pickup you're using if you have different ones, Piezo, Graphtech makes some things where you don't have to have this whole contraption on the guitar, but it's actually built in here. It's all there, and you can determine which one you have. But most importantly, distance of each of the little riders from the bridge. And most importantly for me, the E string, the independent pickup was a little bit too far away from the string, and the E string was always quieter. So what I did is I ramped the sensitivity up on the E string to make them even. So that is something you can do later on, if you can see. It's pretty even now. how you control it, hardware settings, what are those? Knob settings. Each knob can do different things on the main page, and you can define it. Everything is freaking definable. LCD contrast, of course. All the MIDI settings, if you really want to go big time into MIDI. But let's go into one last thing, which is controllability. If you go to control, you can see here now what the switches do. There's bank up and down, control 1 and 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And each of these can be whatever the fuck you want them to be. So look at this. Bank up and down. Look, everything is controllable. Bank up and down can be +1 patch, -1 patch. Make it louder, make it quieter. It can be overall BPM. It can be delay 1 tap, delay 2 tap. You can tap the delay times of individual delays. So you could have 1, 2, 3, 4 different delays that you can tap. Master delay tap, FX1 delay tap, FX2 delay tap. This is boss. Everything is user definable by you. Look at this. You can turn individual instruments on and off. You can switch to different alternate tunings with a foot switch. You can turn the 12-string on and off. I mean, it doesn't end what you can do with the foot switches. It's absolutely freaking crazy. More importantly, obviously, it is for control 1 and 2 because those are generally freely definable. And right now you can see this turns master delay on and off. And you can even say it toggles instead of value here. Momentary. So you could say, I'm playing, holding in control 1, delay is there, let go, and delay is gone. Everything can be tailored to what you need, and that is typical boss. It means you have the options. It also means there's a ginormous amount of options, which can be very confusing. Just leave this for later if you get this. Really leave this for later. But you can see there are pages at the bottom. So, the GK switch, right now, these switches change patch up and patch down. And this does volume. Well, it doesn't have to, which is completely ridiculous. It can do all these. You can tap here. You could make this your tap switch. So wherever you are on stage, you can tap delay time if you so choose. Patch minus. The volume can control instrument 1 level only. So you could mix in instrument 1 per patch, I assume. Yes, so that means on one patch you're saying this is, everywhere this is my main volume, but on one patch this only mixes in my strings. Cutoff. You know? Okay, get it? Everything is possible. And there's another page because it has external control in as well. 6 different controls. 3, 4, and 5, 6 are on the back. This is utterly ridiculous what you can do. Now, realistically, this is a relatively small box. I think when it comes to guitar stuff, it's pretty impressive for a synth pedal. Okay, is it the most amazing model in the world? No, but I think for the use that this will get, which means pop rocky kind of bands, or maybe the wedding band guy who just doesn't want to work with a synth guy. I mean, for many people that use this, I think the acoustics and the electric sounds are absolutely good enough to convince in a live setting. It can give you ideas for in a recording setting as well, especially mixed together with the synthy stuff. By themselves, I would always, of course, want to go to like a big amp, but mixed in with a synthy sound, you were not going to hear the artificiality of the sound. So why not use what's built in? I think it's pretty cool. Awesome. Also, of course, the different tunings that you can do, muting some strings software-wise. There's a billion options. Once you play with the user interface on the SY1000. Usually for me, Boss user interfaces are not the greatest. However, this you can get used to. Probably, and we're going to go into that in the next video, the Mac or the PC editor is much more easy to navigate. However, you're not always going to have access to it. So that means here in the practice room, you will need to know, oh, wait a second, it's a little bit too loud. How do I get to it? Or you want to say, oh, wait, has a sequencer on it. How do I turn that off? Or how do I switch the sequencer to be a 5-step sequencer? That kind of stuff, I think you should be able to do on the unit itself, or change the chorus to a flanger, all that stuff, which realistically you can do relatively fast. It takes a few days to really wrap your head around it. Once you've done that, you can make this thing your bitch. Thanks for watching. This was a long video, but it means you're in the market for this and you have questions. And hopefully this answered some of them. The more I get into it, the more impressed I am. Last video is looking at the editor, and it really helps if you've watched this video so you can see how the editor reflects the things that we've learned here. Thanks, Boss, for letting me check this out and paying for this video series. Puts butter on the table and also makes me have fun with the blue thing. Links below and animals at the end.